Movement 2. We must be careful that Mary's story is not exalted, that the story is one that has its problems, it has its flaws and its foibles. I'd like to share with you an article that I found from the Book of Life. The Book of Life is a project where therapists and authors and philosophers and writers join together and write on different issues, whether they be love, whether they be business, whether they be education, whether they be economics, whatever the topic is, you can find it in the Book of Life. And I'd like to read you just a little bit about what the author has to say. Since around 1750, we have been living in a highly distinctive era in the history of love that we can call Romanticism. Romanticism emerged as an ideology in Europe in the mid-18th century in the mind of poets and artists and philosophers, and it has now conquered the world powerfully, yet always quietly, determining how a shopkeeper's son in Yokohama will approach a first script writer in Hollywood will shape the ending of a film, or when a middle-aged woman in Buenos Aires might decide to call it a day with her civil servant husband of 20 years. No single relationship ever follows the romantic template exactly, but its broad outlines are frequently present nevertheless, and might be summed up as follows. Romanticism is deeply hopeful about marriage. It tells us that a long-term marriage can have all the excitement of a love affair. The feelings of love that we are familiar with at the start of a relationship are expected to prevail over a lifetime. Now, for those of you that have been married for quite some time, you may be chuckling to yourself. Romanticism took marriage, hitherto seen as a practical and emotionally temperate union, and fused it together with a passionate love story to create a unique proposition: the lifelong, passionate love marriage. Along the way, Romanticism united love and sex. Previously, people had imagined that they could have sex with characters they didn't love, and that they could love someone without having extraordinary sex with them. Are any of you blushing? I'm starting to. Romanticism elevated sex to the supreme expression of love. Frequent, mutual, satisfying sex became the bellwether of the health of any relationship. Without necessarily meaning to, Romanticism made infrequent sex and adultery into catastrophes. Romanticism proposed that true love must mean an end to loneliness. You know, I can't tell you how many times in the world that I've heard sermons that say, "Come to Jesus and you will have an end to all loneliness." And the pastor will lay out a whole group of ideas centered in the Romantic era, trying to draw the listener in to embolden them into making a choice for Jesus Christ. If you would come and listen to the words of Jesus, you will find both love and fulfillment. That if you are lonely, come to the church and there are people here that will meet your needs. Come to church and God will meet your needs. That you have a God-shaped hole in your life that God just wants to fill up. This idea is rooted in Romanticism and not necessarily the philosophy and understanding of the Holy Scriptures that we have been given. In fact, when we listen to the words of Paul in chapter 13 of 1 Corinthians, we find that Paul isn't quite sure what to do with the understanding of what love is. In fact, we have Tina Turner who tells us what's love got to do with it. Our world is a messed up place. And part of it being messed up is the messiness of Romanticism. The messiness of the work of Victor Hugo that says no matter what happens, everything is going to turn out wonderful. The reality of it is there's really no such thing as a happily ever after. Here ends movement 2.